Welcome, welcome everyone. Welcome to yet another DevPost Builds session. I am Darlise, Developer Marketing Manager here at DevPost. Again, if you're new here, I'm new here. Oh, my voice is echoing. Am I echoing for anyone else? Let me know. No?
Sounds
Okay, we'll keep
good.
it pushing. All right, great. We'll keep it pushing. Well, I'm really excited. If you're new here, I'm also new here. I've only been here at DevPost to date, probably a little bit more than a month. So really excited to be having this session today, especially for the H0 Hack Zero Stack Hackathon with AWS and Vercel. Quick check before we kick off. Just give me a reaction or a thumbs up in the chat. Just let me know that you're ready, that you're excited, you're ready to go. You probably come with questions. All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Oh, I'm seeing some confetti. We love to see it. We love the energy. All right, so I'm not going to delay. Here's how the next hour is going to go. We're going to walk you through a live demo, then we'll open it up for Q&A. So if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A feature in Zoom. And if you're not sure where that Q&A feature is, it is down below. If you're on a computer, it'll be down below, and to the left or to the right, it'll say Q&A. You're able to ask questions there. If you see a question that you're like, oh, I really want that answered super fast, you can upvote that and just let us know. It'll kind of push it to the top of the question queue. You can also put questions in the chat, but it'll be easier for us to organize it if you ask it in the Q&A feature. And if for whatever reason there are just so many of you and we can't get to every question on this call, you can go ahead and ask your question asynchronously via the discussions or the forum board for this hackathon. And so I dropped that link in the chat. I'll drop it again as well really quickly, but you can always drop that question there as well, and someone from AWS or Vercel will get to that question for you. All right. Another thing to note, this recording will be posted on the DevPost YouTube. It will also be emailed directly to everyone who registered and also dropped in our Discord. If you aren't in the Discord, I'll drop the link in the chat right now. Highly recommend being in the Discord. This is going to be a great way to connect with other builders if you're still thinking about building with the team, or if you just want to share what you're building, or if you yourself have answers to a lot of the technical questions. This is going to be a really great way to get practice in terms of like code review and peer feedback as well. All right. I will get out of the way. I will pass it on over to our presenter today, Ronak, who is the Principal Partner Solutions Architect at AWS. He's going to show you and walk you through a live demo. It'll be really short, and we'll go through the Q&A. I'll also drop this link in the chat, which will act as documentation if you want to follow along, but also if you want to take a look at it after and do this on your own, you can do that as well. I'm going to drop this link. That was the wrong link. There we go. And I'll drop that in the chat, but I will pass that on over to Ronak now.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining for today's session. We will uh, go through some hands-on build and Q&A, but let's start with, uh, why would we build with Vercel and AWS, and then Abhi will go through details of hackathon prices, and then we'll go into demo and Q&A, and that's the part I'm most excited about. I'm Ronak Shah. I am at AWS 5 years now, and I work closely with Vercel and uh, was part of building this database integration. So this is the perfect venue for me to come and present. Uh, Now, before we get into the demo, let's get through this. What is driving this, right? So today, what's happening across the industry, right? Few years ago, developer manually built every layer of an application. Today, AI can build things fairly quickly. You can generate UI, API, you can build workflow, and small team can ship product faster than ever, right? We are moving from writing the software to describing, right? Last year we heard like English is new programming language, and developers are moving towards expressing the intent than writing the code. Uh, and system generates the implementation, and the distance between idea and working software continues to shrink. Uh, but what is happening, or what's the challenge in that flow, is generating the software is becoming easier, running it is not. So once you build something initial prototype, you still need a persistent layer, and for that you need to like provision database, some sort of additional storage, a cache, configure the networking, manage credential, handle scaling, and list just goes on. And then you also got to worry about like how you're gonna secure it. And this is where you lose. The teams are losing a lot of time, um, and infrastructure remains like the largest friction point or challenge even in the modern development. And that's where we think developers shouldn't have to choose between speed or infrastructure. And so we wanted to make this easy for everyone to build, and that's why uh, AWS and Vercel database integration exists, and even more services coming. But these are the three databases we have uh, part of the integration, and uh, where Vercel provides kind of best developer experience, and AWS provides world-class infrastructure. Uh, and together, we are bringing production grade AWS services directly into application development experience. And as you're building, and we'll see this, developer can provision, connect, manage infrastructure without leaving the workflow they are already using. Uh, and that's where yeah, within one click you uh, can provision these things from Vercel, connect it from your application. uh, Also, you get the production grade, the data layer, so you don't have to like build it with something local or something small, and then try to figure out how am I going to scale for production grade and security, etc. So that's kind of short introduction and why even we came to this building this hackathon. Let me hand it over to Abhi to talk a little bit more about hackathon and structure, pricing, and then I'll come back. We'll go through demo and Q&A for rest of the session. Abhi, back to
Hey,
you.
thanks, Ronak. Very exciting, the integration and especially Vercel V0. Vercel is really popular, so I'm very excited for all the participants here. So about the hackathon, for which I assume many of you are here, we're calling this H0 to stand for, serverless zero operations management stack. So hack the zero stack with Vercel and AWS databases. We are offering um, over uh, actually we're offering $160,000 in prizes. 80,000 of that is cash, and $80,000 is AWS credits. For participating, you get $100 in AWS credits and $30 in Vercel V0 credits. You can use these credits to build out your applications. The format's virtual. You can work on it offline whenever you have time. However, only one more week remains to submit. So be sure to submit by Monday, June 29th, 5 p.m. I think it's Pacific time or Eastern time. Double check the website. But it's the evening of the US, Monday, June 29th. If you're unfamiliar yet, but the stack needs to be AWS and Vercel. It's the three databases Ronak pointed to, DynamoDB, yeah, or Amazon Aurora and Aurora DSQL are the three databases that are integrated. So as long as you use Vercel, whether it's V0 or just your application deployed to Vercel and one of those three databases from AWS, you are good to go. 4 challenge tracks. So this is where it gets exciting. So if you were looking to build your side hustle, this would be a fantastic place to start. So you can build a side hustle application which is oriented towards consumers. So the first one is monetizable B2C or business to consumer application. You can build it in one of these suggested industries. The second one is a B2B application. So think about how you will build your side hustle for selling your application, whether it's subscription or otherwise, to another business. It could be one of these industries mentioned on this slide. And the third one is a million scale global application. So think about architectures that this kind of application will need in terms of scalability and reliability. It could be one of these industries in gaming, social media, entertainment. Just think about it from this application design perspective. Obviously, you do not really need to, for a hackathon, you don't really need to build out infrastructure 4 million users right now, right? This is we are interested in seeing your thinking in architecting the application. The last one, if none of these 3 tracks catch your fancy, you can build any kind of application in any industry. Now, keep in mind, Ronak, if you can move to the next slide, keep in mind that the track that you choose has a bearing on the prizes, right? So every track has a prize. In fact, it's got 3 prizes: $10,000 in cash, $10,000 in credits for the first prize. Second and third prizes are 5,000 and 3,000 for each of cash and credits. So that's 4 tracks, 3 first, second, third place prizes. So that's 12 prizes in total. However, there's more. Ronak, if you want to move to the next slide, there's more awards and bonus points. So there's 4 other prizes for each of the 4 criteria that we will judge all applications for, right? So the 4 criteria are, the best technical implementation, the best design, what's most impactful, and what's most original. So even if you do not get overall prizes for those 4 tracks, you have a chance at winning these prizes if you're best in one of these judging criteria, right? So, and each of these carries $2,000 in cash and $2,000 in AWS credits. To give yourself a leg up on, overall prize attainment, you can also publish content, original content on any public website, YouTube, AWS Builder Center, and so on. And this will give you 0.2 points out of a scale of 5 points total, right? So, and you can get a maximum of 0.6 points if you publish 3 pieces of content, right? These could be blogs or videos and so on YouTube. So with the bonus points, you can actually you're competing for 5.6. You're competing for 5.6 total points for your submission. So that will give you the best chance at winning these rewards. Again, judging criteria. Thanks, Ronak, for switching slides. Judging criteria, we will have the technical implementation. How we will judge this is your architecture diagram. We have provided an example on the Hackathon website. We want to see how you have thought through deliberately, on the AWS architecture side, especially on the databases, and how you're scaling and how your application is designed well for the kind of problem you're trying to solve and the kinds of users you're expecting, whether it's global or not, and how you think through all of those. You need to show that in your architecture diagram. The design needs to be clean and intuitive. The impact and applicability has to be real world. We want to see how inspiring or how valuable the problem you're trying to solve is. And the last one is originality. It should be creative and original, and there should be some insights. And all of this we will judge with your presentation. 3 minutes maximum presentation. You can record yourself and upload to for the submission. I think that's sort of it. Let's go into the demo, Ronak, and I will try to answer any questions that came through while I was speaking. Ronak, you're on mute. There you go.
Yep. So yeah, we are moving fast. So there are a couple of demos we will go through, and then I'll switch my screen from PowerPoint to Vercel side, and we'll try to build and see few example. We'll use V0 and build something, and then we'll also see example if you want to build with Claude Code or Codex, and use the integrations with Vercel. So here, this one I'm going to run pre-recorded. So, as you watch this, there is no jumping between consoles and no manually creating credential. You probably already gone through these steps already, but imagine you're building something, and traditionally you need to create like application, provision the database, configure the credential. Instead, simply go and describe what you want to build. As in build me food delivery app. It will ask you about the database console or database access or provisioning, uh, and it will build you kind of quickly full uh, uh, applications. Uh, you can also manage those database, open into AWS console, open your CLI or Cloud Shell within console, and access the sample data, etc., within database. Uh, all in all, in like few moments, you get the front end generated, back end generated, database connected, and application is ready to deploy. Now that's just how conceptually and flow wise it works. If uh, You can continue to iterate over it, as well as um, uh, commit the code in GitHub and creating different version. I would recommend go step by step, uh, and uh, have multiple versions, so you can always go back, because as you go multiple iteration, things will break, and it will you have a way to go back. Uh, Also, you are generating an application that is connected with production-ready infrastructure from day one. So let me also kind of share the other application here. What I have done is like here is my sample prompt. I am in V0, and I'm saying, and this is more of a step-by-step process where I'm saying, hey, I want to just create home page for B2C application here, which is e-commerce. And obviously this is kind of sample, but kind of describing uh, uh, what I'm looking for. And then uh, I kind of ran this prompt earlier to save some time, not to keep you waiting while V0 generates, but it thought through it, kind of created this application, uh, a nice UI, and it will uh, kind of gives me kind of place to start iterating. Uh, I also went through kind of this new feature within V0 where you can annotate and run those as an as a next step and switch whatever you want to switch within your UI. Uh, so that's something I did like few minutes ago where I said, okay, you know what, I want to get to uh, this uh, uh, annotation, and I want to change this button uh, to something different, and then ran this prompt. Once that's there, let me just refresh. So um, at a good place, I can say, okay, now that I have the UI, I mean, obviously this is not functional. I don't have AWS database or any to store any data. I can say, well, you know what, I want to store my orders in AWS the SQL database, uh, and let it go through, or prompt me for creating the DSQL database and connecting. It will generate the changes. I can also prompt like, okay, for my catalog, I want to store in DynamoDB because you know, it's more, SQL. Uh, and I could also, say for other things, I want to put it in Aurora Postgres, right? Uh, so here, because I already have one DSQL instance, I'm getting choice like you want to use that or create new. I'm going to create new, which will just gonna build the code and connect to the database. Now this is building with V0, but I know many of you would be saying, well, I want to use the coding with Claude Code or Codex or editor of my choice. So while this cooking, let me switch to this other approach where you can build through Claude Code. And before I switch there, I think I have also seen some questions into the Hackathon website on someone asking about some of the other services or the database which are not internet connected or lives in a private VPC. For sake of hackathon, you don't have to go that far, or we don't expect the you to connect the VPC. But if you are pro or enterprise within Vercel, then there is a networking tab you see, and you can connect through VPC peering between your Vercel and your AWS VPC. Uh, don't expect this for not part of the judging criteria, etc. I saw several questions, so just pointing it out. Now let's get into building uh, with uh, the with other coding agent. And here, as you see in the overview slide here, we are building something which has the Next.js front end. Uh, uh, for the Python front, it's a fast API which acts as an backend. It connects through Amazon Bedrock, through AI Vercel AI Gateway for your AI inference, and it stores your this is like hello world type chat application, and it stores the chat history in the database. So that's kind of overall the application and the architecture. And there are some prereqs, right? It's just not just you go to V0 and start prompting, right? You're building it this in your local or using Vercel Sandbox or DevBox. So you go through some of the local settings. If you don't have it, right, then you can there's something new. You can use like DevBox, install some of the prereqs, uh, make sure you save your DevBox ID, and we'll share this workshop link also, so you have it if you want to go this route. There is a starter applications which you can clone. And this is particularly if you are using DevBox. If you are using local and already set up, you can skip some of these steps. Uh, make sure you have like Vercel plugin, and this is kind of important where you are getting some of the skills for your coding agent. Uh, and once you are all kind of set with the Vercel prereqs, your skills, you can just open your coding agent through, as here, for example, it's Claude, and once that's there, this DevBox example is more if you're using DevBox, you can start your app, uh, create kind of Vercel project, create your Git repo, other things you can keep it as is, and this is just a list to look at. You have all these prereqs. Uh, if you're used to building with Claude Code only prereqs, you're looking is more of an Vercel prereqs, and you're good to go. Here is kind of sample prompt. You'll give it to Claude Code, and where you're saying, use the this is how I want the UI, and Claude Code will do what it does best, get you the UI. And once you have the UI in the next prompt, you will prompt it for uh, the database where you you will kind of run this command where you find AWS. I want the APG, the Aurora Postgres, and it will open kind of same flow which we saw in V0, where you will go through the database name and region again, right? You want to pick the region where you are. This integration is available in 19 regions, so you find the closest and make sure you're also deploying Vercel and database closer or in the same region. This database region matches with the Vercel region. Also, uh, to get the base latency. Uh, Once you have the integration, you can prompt Claude Code to say, make me the backend for my conversation storage and use the backend FastAPI, use the Aurora database from Vercel integration, and replace any placeholder mock code which you generated when you generated the UI. You go through this prompt and you will pretty much uh, get this application which you can just deploy to Vercel, this is just same what you could also do from V0 if you want to deploy. Uh, that's just you know another way or the CLI, but it's same as it's something like deployment you would do from V0. Now, and right, once you are in the database or once it's deployed, you can get to again, let me kind of switch from this screenshot to Vercel back, right? You can, too many tabs, but you can get to your integration and your one of your database, and then you can go open in AWS and access those database, similar to what you saw in earlier demo. Going back to my, the workshop or the slides over here, you similar what you can saw, you can run and test your conversations. What you're doing is saved, and you are ready to iterate, right? So go. The way I would approach this is, build an UI, build an integration, and then keep making it complex or keep making it iterating over it. Don't try to do everything in like one big prompt. That could kind of lead to more troubleshooting and more time being spent figuring out what didn't happen. Uh, so, uh, once you connect database, you wire up the API and deploy. Here is some extra stuff, like if you want to use different model, if you want to use VS Code, then there is some instruction how to get going on those things. And we'll put this link out there so you can use these as an example as you're building. I think with that, I would like to open this up for more Q&A because that's what I'm actually looking forward to because as you are already building, I'm sure you have questions or you got stuck somewhere, and uh, we would love to unblock you to keep going.
So we do have some open questions already, Ronak. I want to point out one question that seems to be recurring, which is, what if I build an application that can qualify for multiple tracks? So this one is as a participant, you need to be careful which track you choose because you can only submit the application for one track. If you have time, you can build multiple applications and submit to other tracks, right? But you can submit one application to one track.
Yeah, wherever it's heavier, right? Sometimes it's not mutually exclusive, right? If it's doing something B2C, it could be global scale, right? Or it has an aspect of B2B, but whatever is the primary intent or primary aspect of the application, I think that's track would make more sense to pick.
Um, we had a question about Vercel. Someone getting an error. Anonymous attendee, an error. Can you actually post that to our discussions page on the Hackathon website? I don't know who asked that question about database. No database URL found. I think this will be better answered over there. I think, Ronak, you should take this one. When an AWS account got created through Vercel, what are the steps to take to complete the registration on AWS? Because currently I cannot use other AWS services like S3.
That's a fair question. And so this particular integration where it sets up like an limited scope account, which is restricted to use specific services like this database services. And recently we have added OpenSearch. Uh, Definitely more services are coming within scope of this new account you create part of this integration. But that doesn't mean you can't access other AWS account or uh, other services. So the way I would do S3 currently, if you want to use both the limited scope account, which comes with these particular services, and other services, it would be just your um, another AWS account where you have S3, and there is a way to connect that. So when you install an application or install an integration, you could connect to existing AWS account. I think the nuances or the difference here to note is this new account which is getting created under the hood for this database is is the limited scope account which only allowed services, but you could also not do that and use your other AWS account or existing AWS account part of integration, and then you can connect to full range of AWS services, including S3. So let me also go to another question, which is saying, I'm using Next.js for front end and Express backend along with AWS Aurora PostgreSQL database. So I think it is under the Hackathon tech stack rule. or do I need to build my API in Next.js only? No, you don't need to build your API in Next.js only, and was that's the reason I showed that another example where it's using FastAPI and those are built in Python. So definitely, we know, while Next.js is most like popular framework for APIs, people do have their own way or their own preferences, and you can uh, deploy those fast API in Vercel as you saw in that workshop, which we will definitely share. Uh, there is any other question which is up high or in the stack?
Yeah, so looking at some of the questions now, a lot are around what to classify the project as well as yeah, using other technology. But I'm seeing there was one I saw. Where did it go? It's possible to knowledge time. Questions around credits and let's see here. Doesn't really. I think majority of these were answered. There was a question around what to focus on for the demo. So the demo video is supposed to be 3 minutes long. And so what would you suggest what should be the focus for the demo?
So I would suggest, keeping in mind the judging criteria, which is around the technical implementation, the originality, the design, um, and the real world applicability, right? So you want to make sure that you are covering all of these things within a 3 minute time frame.
Uh, okay.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
what we are looking is is both Vercel and AWS being used right as an architecture. We want to see some application. There is also this question goes into like you haven't gathered much data to display, which is okay as far as you can display uh, that there is a database behind this and there is an few rows, right? It
Yes.
doesn't have to be million row as far as we can uh, it- because by showing that you're showing uh, the architecture and runtime flow of the application, even though you haven't collected millions of rows.
That's amazing. One question, kind of interesting actually. What application of AWS databases would you say would blow database engineers' minds for those who have kind of been in the game for a long time? Like what would you say is like something to look out for?
Can you repeat that, please? What was it?
The question is, what application or use case of AWS databases would you say would blow database engineers' minds for those who have kind of seen it all? That's one of the questions that I
Interesting.
found. Yeah,
Very good.
interesting. Mhm.
Hmm.
So we this debate never ends, right? Which database, and we have like Dynamo for NoSQL, DSQL for distributor SQL at global scale, and then Postgres. And uh, while we have seen interesting use cases for each, articulating why on uh, for your application, what is your vision and why you made those choices for specific database would be uh, uh, interesting or would be really we are kind of looking into, right? Like, what is the thought process behind this?
Great
I see a,
question. Yeah.
I see a question from Gaurav about is deploying on AWS required or is a Vercel deployment acceptable? Ronak, do you want to answer that one or I can take it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, w- even you saw part of the demo, right? It was self-deploy. So, yes, that is exactly, uh, kind of ease of deployment and ease of using the database, which is what we are trying to bring together here. So, no, you don't have to deploy everything on Vercel.
Another question I see is what screenshots do we need to provide to show that we're using AWS databases? So you can go to your Vercel dashboard and under storage, we want to see the database uh, that is shown over there. You're showing it? That's great, Ronak. Okay.
Yeah, right. Because if you have this and you are able to get into your AWS account, and then that would be just few clicks, right? Where you get on the database you just created and um, connect it back to your console. That kind of proves that you have something. There's also a question about uh, others. Can I use other services, S3, Bedrock, etc.? And yes, answer is yes. Uh, your project or your Vercel code can connect to multiple AWS accounts and multiple AWS services, which is kind of in real world that that happens anyway. So feel free, but while you do that, don't uh, not do the core hackathon is about, where you we wanted to use this database integration and spin up the database and connect. So yes, use other services. Make sure you are also using the database, which is anyway usually needed, right? You need some sort of persistent layer uh, for your application.
Just to add to that, the $100 in AWS credits you will get, those credits are applicable to most AWS services. So it's not just database. So you can use those credits for those other services. Um, One question, must the project make revenue before it is considered, or it just needs to have the potential to make revenue? So it's the latter. So the first two tracks uh, say mention monetizable, whether it's B2C or B2B applications. So this is just to encourage you to think about, uh, you know, um, commercial aspects of your application, right? So if you're building a side hustle or if you're already a solo founder or something, you can, we want to see how you're thinking about it. So it just needs to have the potential. It need not be really a production application or, a monetized application.
Yeah. And someone also asked, like, you ran out of like free credit. Can I continue to build it offline and update the repo? Yes, exactly. You can, right? And we um, even in outside the hackathon, we see like developers switching between, build the front end in V0 and then go back to like Kiro or Claude Code and bringing it everything together in a final repo. So it is okay to switch between the code generation tool as far as you get the final project and able and deploy using Vercel.
Interesting question. Can we still keep updating the project after submitting and after the deadline? So we will evaluate the submission uh, at what you submit at the deadline, right? So we will we will review the recording of your presentation and see where the app is based on that. So it's not fair to the other um, participants if we evaluate at different time frames. Question for you,
Yeah,
Daniel,
I
was
mean, you can keep developing, but
yes
either
for
create
your yeah.
new repo or do something after, like, fork it and just continue, right? Don't update the repo once you submit, uh, or just submit a branch which is done at the time of submission, and you can continue to build later on. But we don't want to kind of use that, because then it's just moving target and not fair to others.
Yeah, and
um,
even on Devpost side, I'll say once you submit, just make sure the links that you need to have submitted are submitted on Devpost, because once that submission deadline passes, you won't be able to add any links or change any links. So make sure the YouTube link is at least there. Make sure it's unlisted or public. We've had some problems with that in the past. And yeah, make sure that GitHub repo or whatever repo you're using is there as well, even if you update it like 30 seconds after in terms of like the content, but the link has to be there.
I'm surprised there's no questions about the bonus points. So on a
I'm
five,
surprised too.
yeah, so on a 5 point scale, you can actually get an additional 0.6 points. So that's quite significant if you're trying to get one of these prizes.
Mhm.
And
Which is
Abhi, there is one question is like, what's the time uh, to wait in order to get response for the credit? I think it relates to like new
New
submission.
credit. Yeah, so that's a good question. Um, Darlise, actually, do you want to take that? I think you answered somewhere that same
yeah.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, and so typically it'll take about 3 business days. And so if you did submit on a Friday, then technically you submitted right when people are coming into the weekend. And so I would expect that probably on a today or a tomorrow basis. But it's can be before then. I will say when you are submitting to that credits form, being specific about the language that you're using in that credits form, because I do see more denials if you use kind of like AI language or you're not clear on how you're going to be using the credits or what you want to build. It doesn't have to be a super long explanation, but it does have to be a human written explanation. And then I do see a question on if they can keep the GitHub repo private.
I believe so, but one sec. Let me double check the rules.
Mhm. And then the other question is in relation to judging in terms of the weight. So, like, what's going to be more weighted? And I do believe that's going to be in the judging criteria as well. But they're asking in terms of like design heavy, like scalability, robustness, trade-offs, architecture. Like, what are judges paying the most attention to when it comes to the criteria?
Um, Give me one sec. I will come. I have it written down in another
Hmm.
place. It's almost equal weighted across the four, but it's not quite equal. So let me find that. Um, about the repo. It's I would point you to the rules. If there's no rules about making your repo public, then just assume that you can keep it private. We would still require your submission to contain all the things that are listed on the hackathon website, right? So it's the architecture diagram, your recording, and I forget if there's another.
Yeah, let's put the clarification in general Q&A
Hmm.
Yeah,
for the
that'd be great.
repo. Yeah, there is another question on, someone is connected to AWS using Vercel OIDC Federation and kind of provision the database through AWS CDK. So you're not able to see into Vercel storage integration. Uh, there is so essentially when you do this integration through UI or CLI, under the hood, it is setting up Vercel OIDC for you. And the reason it shows up in specific UI because it's been tagged in a specific way. Uh, so uh, I there are a couple of ways here, right? You can kind of, if you set up something through integration and look at those tag and put this tag to what you have, you might see that in your integration and take a screenshot, or you could somehow make sure we understand what you have done and you can prove that this is how application is connecting to AWS database. The what we are asking is much more easier than but I'm sure you in your case you can still take in part of your video you can still kind of go through the flow and show what's been done. But
Okay.
you have just gone through this manually versus the integration kind of does OIDC under the hood.
We probably have time for one or two more questions. I see one. Does it matter whether our AWS database was provisioned through the Vercel integration UI versus created directly in the AWS console? Does the integration need to be the literal provisioning path, or is it acceptable as long as the Vercel deployed app connects to and uses a real AWS database?
I think we Vercel deploy is the preferred way because as I said, that's been tagged specifically, and it's easy for us to see the impact of this hackathon. Uh, uh, Technically, you could go like a lot of different route, but the either CLI or UI using this integration would be yeah, easy for us to judge. The other one, as far as you can make it clear what has happened, uh, is fine too. Uh,
All
yeah, and we have seen like a lot of people start with this because this is easy, like to create through UI or through V0, and then they end up switching it to more a flexible way.
right. And yeah, Ganesh, we'll get a specific clarified answer on the GitHub repo private being allowed, and we'll send that via follow-up today as well. But let's see if any other questions before we wrap up. We have 1 minute on the mark. Just before we wrap, for any questions we didn't get to today, you can post them in the discussions tab of this hackathon. I posted that link in the chat, so take a look at the chat for that link. And then also let us know how this session and this Q&A was. We really appreciate if you could fill out that feedback survey, but this recording will also be sent, and any resources that were talked about will be sent via a follow-up email for anyone who registered as well. All right, let's see. Any other questions we want to get to before we wrap? We have literally 60 seconds. I think. That is all. I think, yeah, that's about all that we can get to today. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Ronak. Thank you, Abhi, for participating in this build session. We're so happy to have you here. And thank you to everyone who participated, who asked questions, who answered questions. I saw some people posting projects in the chat and people were giving feedback. That was really cool. And so thank you all for attending. Again, if you do have any additional questions, go ahead and ask those in the discussions tab of the hackathon. We'll drop that link as well in a follow-up email, as well as give us your feedback. And if you're not in a Discord, go ahead and join that as well. I'll drop that link really quickly for anyone who wants to join. And we look forward to seeing your submissions. Just for anyone who's not aware, for whatever reason, submission deadline is the 29th. And so I will say get those submissions in as early as possible if you can. Even if you start the submission, I'm going to start saying this out loud. Even if you just start the submission now, just so you don't have so much to do literally the day of, I promise you it'll be worth it. So that's what I'll say on that. But let us know if you have any questions, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day and or evening, depending on what time we're finding you today. All
Thank you
right.
all.
Thanks, everyone.